Welcome, everybody, to Wise Tech for Wise Money, the podcast where we speak with founders, investors, and operators about how technology, strategy, and real world experience come together to build stronger, more scalable businesses. I'm Gary Wayne, founder of A1 Solutions, where we work with founders, leadership teams, financial businesses to improve efficiency, scale intelligently, and grow through smarter use of technology, systems, and operational strategy. Today's episode is titled Capital Constraints and Opportunity, Building Real Estate Strategies in a Restricted World. Today's discussion is about real estate, not just as property, but as a capital strategy, and how macro forces like regulation, taxation, and supply constraints are reshaping where and how investors deploy capital. I'm joined today by Vlad Kamchiline, founder of Stroit Capital, a firm focused on real estate development, investment structuring, and identifying opportunities across North America. Hi Vlad, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, I'm glad we got together eventually. How are
Absolutely.
you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm keeping busy, uh, enjoying the weather, getting ready for summer, and buying up property and hopefully buying up more in the coming months.
Yeah, I'm impressed to have such a young entrepreneur on this podcast.
Yeah,
It's interesting that how you got involved and worked for yourself so early on in your life. Maybe you can talk me through what made you do that and how you became an entrepreneur at such a young age.
I've been an entrepreneur since I was, I think, 21 years old. I mean, throughout high school, I was as well. But I really just never really wanted to work for anybody. Um, I would rather have taken the risk and fallen flat on my face by myself than been with a steady job. And that's not to like bash on anyone with a steady job because I think that's it's definitely needed and admirable. It's just something in my bones didn't like that. And at times it was good and at times it was very, very bad. So obviously you pay the price for that if you have those kind of goals. So I started out with drywall and painting business when I was 20 years old or so. And I did that with the goal of getting into real estate development. So the plan was always in my head to become a real estate developer.
Well,
So
why
over the
was that,
course,
Miles?
um,
Why
throughout
real estate?
I just like seeing the physical buildings go up and everything that has to happen for the project to be finished. I think is just fascinating. A lot of my family is in tech and software, so you can't really see what you built or what you work on, like if it's telecommunications or cybersecurity. And I was the complete opposite. I liked seeing physical assets.
When
So yeah.
you look at property, I mean, you'd think the real estate market is saturated. Is it hard to actually get a breakthrough and make your mark?
No, because everyone has their own niche, very niche ambition, right? So I could have the niche ambition of wanting to build duplexes in Arizona. A guy my age might have the niche ambition to buy the land and flip the land to me. The other guy might have a niche ambition to be the general contractor. So everyone has their own little pocket where they fit into. And of course, there's going to be competition in certain areas if it's really desirable, and you see that in pockets where I live in Vancouver. But for the most part, everyone has their lane and they stick to it. And if they don't get something, then they just choose a different lane.
I mean, you built your career independently. What did that teach you early in your life that most people don't understand?
Everything falls on you, and you can't blame anyone else for your mistakes. So I made mistakes with my first business that put me in a little bit of trouble financially. And at the end of the day, you take full ownership on what happened to get you there and what you have to do to get out of that. If you just take accountability for all of your own actions and your failures, then um, you'll be able to get through it and come out alive on the other side.
Did you have a mentor or any help along the way?
I did have a mentor who was like 10, 15 years older than me who also owned a large drywall and paint business, but I didn't keep in contact with them very much. I think when you're young, you have a little bit of an ego. So, especially if you're 22. So, I did keep in contact with them. Uh, but I think I have more mentorship now at this stage in my life where people reach out to me that are older and they see, hey, I like the path that you're heading down. I see I see myself in you a lot and kind of give me a call whenever you want if you're in a fork in a road or if you need assistance on a deal or anything like that.
That's fantastic.
It is.
I watched your Instagram, you know, um, socials, and yeah, it's very impressive. Very impressive. How's your background growing up in Canada with Russian roots shaped, how you seek opportunity and ownership? Has it made any difference to you, or in your actual view?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in Russia, but I lived here 90% of my life, if not more. And I think my background maybe shaped my view and the way I do business. Like growing up, my dad is a very straightforward person. And I think I adopted that sort of mindset, being very straightforward. I think a lot of the high achievers don't waste a lot of time with petty things or, getting upset over bad deals. Like everything is just strictly business. And I think I like to be straightforward. A lot of people in Canada um, very polished and kind, and they put a facade on their face if you do business with them here sometimes. So I just kind of like to adopt more of a straightforward business mindset and cut out any bull crap.
How long has Stroit Capital been going, and how did you sort of form that name, Stroit? And,
So
yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting to me.
Stroit's been around for oh, I lose track of time. I think 3 years. We started with flips, but Stroit is actually a Russian word, stroit, and stroit or stroit means build. So it's a Russian word for build, and basically it's like build capital.
So what is at the core of Stroit Capital? What do you do? What's your offering? What are you who are you dealing with, etc. Give me an overview.
Yeah. So we are a real estate developer that is essentially the sponsor on development projects. So we'll find the land, bring the deal. We'll have our own architects, builder, and then through the due diligence phase, we'll raise the money for the project. We'll have a small stake in the project as well, and we'll manage the project, everything from raw land all the way to selling or renting out the units. So we're basically a full service development company. Some of our partners are our general partners, so they come from the industry themselves and they want to be a part of the project a little bit more. And some of them are completely silent and just kind of trust us with the vision that we have for the project.
So you raise for you raise you find the land, raise the project, and then you raise the money. And are you only specialising in Arizona, or are you doing a lot of work in Canada? How do you identify the opportunities that makes a deal interesting?
So we were starting in Vancouver, Canada. For the listeners, it's very expensive here to do anything. Our first uh, our first flip, for example, needed $600,000 in cash. Our second one needed 1.2 million, and our third one about another 600,000. So if you accumulate all of that cash, you could build an immense amount of projects in the states for that money. Additionally, in the States, you have non recourse loans. So the lenders basically loan based on the project success, not on you personally. And for you to build the same thing in Vancouver, Canada, there's a lot of personal guarantees with a lot of net worth and equity required just sitting in a bank account for you to get any sort of construction loan. So I went through that hoop a couple times here when I was starting out, and as someone that's starting out, I didn't want to wait 2 years to finish a duplex, which is what it takes here. By the time you rezone, get your permits, build and everything, it ends up being 2 years. I wanted to do things like in 6 month and 1 month horizons to get in and out of projects and build that track record. So that's why Arizona has been the place that I've been looking at. It's a growing population and overall just has a great economy right now.
Tell me about non-recourse loans. How does that work? Do they lend you 100% or is it
No,
a percentage of?
so for example, let's say you want to build a house that you're going to sell. Let's say the total cost is, for easy math, $300,000. You have to bring 20% of that $300,000. So you end up getting 80% loan to cost. Plus, you have an interest reserve. So let's say another $10,000. So that ends up being $60,000 plus 10, 70 grand that you need to show the lender in a bank account sitting there ready to deploy for this project. They don't look at your social insurance number, anything like that. They just look at the amount of money that you have specifically in the bank account for that project, and then they look at your they call it after renovated value based on your comparables, and if that matches up, then they land on the project.
Do they investigate who's working on the project, the experience of the contractors, etc.?
Yeah, so they require you to hire a general contractor, someone that's done similar projects, which isn't very hard to find down there. And so you, as an individual, if you live somewhere else, you cannot be the general contractor. They do require someone else to be a general contractor.
It's interesting. What's your main driving focus, obviously, as a company? Is it are you operating on capital appreciation, cash flow, strategic positioning, i.e., on land zoning and future value? What is the major focus and solution you solve?
You mean how we make our money?
Well, not only how you make your money, but are you looking to solve a problem, or are you looking to give a return on investment to people?
Yeah. Yeah, the problem I'm solving is I want to be the conduit for investors that want to get into real estate locally in Vancouver, but are either spread too thin or kind of are already tapped out here locally and they want to look at other markets. So a lot of the people that put money in my projects are from the real estate industry themselves. If it takes $1 million of their money to build a project here, they have not much of a big problem giving me $100,000 to do something in the States as like a feeler. So it's a little bit of a diversification. um, people have a lot of money here. They kind of want to put it somewhere else for a little while because they're not sure what's going to happen with the market here in Vancouver. And then the other aspect of them is just retail investors that want to be a part of a project because they see my Instagram videos and they want to be a part of a project with Vlad.
So how do you find your clients generally, or your investors? Is that
Believe
via
it or not,
Instagram or?
yeah, believe it or not, they come to me, which is like finding investors for the last 2 years has been the hardest thing I've ever done. You call dozens of people, have hundreds of meetings and phone calls and everything just nothing gets anywhere. And one day I woke up, my friend who runs a pretty good Instagram account just said, just start posting because you just start documenting stuff and people will want to pay attention. And I used to tell him, "Oh, that's not for my industry. That's more so for his industry." And then one day I woke up like six months ago. I just said, "Screw it. I'm just going to post every single day." So I didn't stop. I just posted every single day. Grew a few thousand followers in that time span, and I have a link in my bio. People fill it in. They tell me how much money they have, where they're from, what scares them about investing, and gives me their phone number. And then we have a phone call and see if they're open to put money into a project.
It's all via Instagram.
Everything is via Instagram. All the connections I've made that are of any sort of value, that are in Arizona, like I'll have people DM me saying, "Hey, I used to live in Vancouver. I'm in Arizona now. Let me know if you ever need an office to work out of. I'll throw you my keys. um, People that are owning different sorts of companies say, "Hey, I have access to a lot of high net worth people. Um, I will try out one of your projects by myself, and then if things go well, then I'll open up the books to give you access to more investors." Everything's been through Instagram.
It's amazing. And
It is.
when you post on Instagram, are you still posting daily? How do you know what you're going to talk about on any given day?
I have a notes app in my phone, and I just type in what comes to mind sometimes. So I'll have a lot of things there. And then I'll also have a lot of things in my camera roll from things that I filmed a week ago that I didn't like, maybe. So I'll edit that. Or I'll just literally sit down for 10 minutes and think, okay, what's a past experience that I had that I can talk about for 30, 45 seconds that people might find valuable? Or I think about, what am I doing today that's pushing the business forward, and how can I share that with people online?
Yeah, it's amazing. I watched a couple of your Instagram. I mean, you're walking along, you're doing all sorts of different things, and you're obviously on the Instagram, and it's very fluent. It actually looks like you could be being filmed by professionals.
Yeah, I had a friend help me out for a couple of days for free. So he actually films content for real estate agents. So he gave me a free few days, and he used my content to boost his business. And now whenever I try to call him for another free shoot, he's too busy to film, which is good. That means his business is doing well. But yeah, it's nice when someone else films you. You have that sort of vlog style.
Yeah, so I think it's fantastic. Maybe it's something I should do.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Canadian market. Obviously you invest in the US. You gave me a little bit of overview about Vancouver, but the Canadian market as a whole, is it tough to create and develop it in Canada generally?
Yes, it is. That's the short answer. Right now, I mean, if you have a boatload of cash and you have a house that you own outright that you can sign on to the loan, it'll be pretty easy for you. And as much as people bash on Vancouver, and I do as well, and things do take a long time, there are a lot of pockets in the city of Vancouver specifically, by the water, by the university, in just nice neighborhoods where you can take a single family house, demolish it, build 2 to 3 units on it, and make a couple $1 million. Like it is pretty incredible, the amount of money that you can make. But you're going to be doing that for 2 to 2.5 years, and you're not going to see a single dollar for 2 years. So if you spread out your return over 2 years, it really ends up being like any sort of normal real estate investment, and it's nothing special. And on top of that, you're dealing with all the headache of jumping through the loopholes with the city, whatever the government wants to change in terms of ruling. You know, that's like the development side. Nothing else pencils for single family. There's no large developers here that build single family homes. They maybe said, we're going to zone these few thousand acres starting tomorrow to be single family. Then maybe some developer would come and spend all that money to service all that land. But with the timelines that it takes, developers just aren't looking at those sorts of projects. So what they have looked at over the last 10 years is a lot of high rises, like really, really dense projects. And because when they go through pre-sales over the last 10 years, they were selling them to a lot of investors. So mom and pop investors that were buying them to rent them out, and investors from overseas that were buying them for appreciation, uh, or to hide their money somewhere else. So I think there was a stat where 60% of all the sold condos in the lower mainland over the last, from 2016 to 2023, was all for investors. And now that all those homes are built, the values of those apartments have tanked because there's too many of them. People can't close on them. Foreign buyers are banned. So foreign buyers can't repurchase these assignments that people are trying to sell. And so it's just the perfect storm. So now you have high rises that are sitting empty all across Canada. and the government's looking at buying all of these high rises from the developers and turning them into rental housing. So that's like a 50-year play that a lot of private companies are doing too. Like a lot of the big funds are buying these unsold projects from developers, bailing them out of their extreme debt and holding on to them for the next 50 years just to be as rentals.
That's incredible. And but is that a Canada problem or a Vancouver problem?
That's a Canada problem. It's actually a much bigger problem in Toronto, but Vancouver with the empty condos is also in a lot of trouble. And they're just kind of sitting there like people were expecting to take their condos and reassign the sale once it's complete to someone else because over the last 10 years whenever a project was built you would make 50 to 100 grand because the values were just like accelerating so quickly. And then when all those projects finish at the same time everyone's left holding the bag. Who do you sell to? And it ends up being like a Ponzi scheme. Like it's crumbling at the bottom, and now it's just the people that are left holding the bag that recycled from one project to the next, and all their money is tied up in like a few condos, and they're losing like 100 grand per condo because they can't close because they can't get a mortgage for it. If they do get a mortgage for it, they'll be losing $1,500 a month in cash flow, and a lot of these people just have, you know, regular jobs and not a big savings, so they're basically going bankrupt trying to sell these condos.
Is there a lot of people going bankrupt because of this?
Yeah,
But tell me about investors generally in Canada. I mean, do they all look outside of Canada for their opportunity, which obviously creates a great situation for you, or is it just obviously the minority?
they are looking now. There was always a small minority that had like a vacation home in Arizona or Palm Springs, right? The wealthier people, but of all the developers and builders that I speak to, um, it's a multi-generational business. So their parents or dads started in the 80s and the 90s, built a lot of single family because it was a lot cheaper back then. Built a lot of single family, transitioned into townhomes, condo projects, and now the kids that are my age are underwriting all the new deals, and they're like, "Well, there's really no money to be made. It's going to take forever to get approved, and we can't pre-sell the projects because you have to pre-sell at least half of the project to get construction financing." So no projects are taking off. So they're kind of like looking around, and then they see me on Instagram talking about the difference between the states and Canada and how easy it is to get loans, and they almost don't believe it, which I don't blame them. And then we got on a phone call. I tell them, it takes 6 months to build a house from start to finish, and they're like amazed because it takes them 2 years here typically. And then that's where the conversation flows. And that's where I jump back to saying, like, I want to be the conduit of people that are exploring stuff in the States. I want to be the main funnel that can channel all that money down there.
So obviously, the states 6 months is a fantastic turnaround. I mean, how does that physically get done in 6 months?
Yeah. So all the homes there, a single family house there is all slab on grade. So meaning there's no basement. All the lots are already flat. So let's say I purchase land today and I already have drawings, which I do for this specific project that I'm talking about. I submit the permits. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for those permits to get approved. And then I can break ground. It takes 4 months to build the project, a 1,500 square foot house, because you just have a concrete pad, you frame on top of it, and everything else is just finishing on the inside. They still have inspections and all the things that are required from the city, but you're building in a climate that doesn't necessarily need as extensive waterproofing and excavating. So a lot of that is finished quicker. Also, when people build housing in Vancouver, they need to build it luxury because only luxury gets them a return on their investment because the land is so expensive, right? If you're buying land for $2 billion and you're squeezing 4 units on there, and then you're trying to sell each unit for 1.5 million, you're not going to be able to sell it for 1.5 million with basic finishings and basic design language. So you have to put all this fancy millwork, all this custom cabinetry. In Arizona, people are buying houses to live in, right? Because there's no apartments really, it's just houses. When you build a house that's for a working class family, you really just put in a regular kitchen, a regular bathroom, and you're not focusing crazy on finishing, which speeds up the timeline a lot. Because if you're waiting for millwork and all these fancy lighting and under cabinet lighting, that extends everything. For a simple house, it's just 4 months.
And is that what you specialise in?
That's the first project that we're starting breaking ground in a few weeks here. But I'm already raising money for the second one, which is going to be 4 units. So that's going to be a plot of land that we're subdividing, and we're building a duplex on each side, and then selling each unit. So my plan is to, probably do or finish 4 units, and then do 16, and then more, and then more.
Well, do you have to buy the land? You buy the land first, obviously.
You put an offer on the land. It depends on where the land is and what stage it's at. You can have extended closing periods. So I actually, for example, for the first one, I got the land under contract with a measly $2,500. Over the course of 30 days, 30 days, I found the people that wanted to put money into the project, got everyone to sign a partnership agreement and a letter of intent, and then we just execute on the deal. So similar with the second one, I've had a few people call me asking what the next project is. So I gave them like an overview. We're gonna have a large lot, subdivide, build duplexes, and they either sound interested or they don't. And if they do, then I get the project under contract for, let's say, 45 days. I'll spend 15 to 30 of those days getting all the people that are interested to put money in on the project, and then the closing period. By that time, I'll have everyone's money, and we will go through the design process and permitting and so on.
Do you buy with planning permission already, or do you apply for the planning permission once you've got the contract?
So this one is already zoned for duplexes. Um, Regarding getting plans for it, the architect has some plans that he can pick from that he's already done. So it's not a matter of designing plans from the ground up. I'll pick all the finishings because I'm pretty particular with that. I don't want the project to look like it was built 10 years ago. And for the single family house, for example, there was plans that came with the project, but the plans made no sense, and it was clearly the seller just trying to get more money out of their sale. So we said the plans are useless, so we negotiated the price down like 25%. And then we just bought plans that are already existing for that size lot, for like another like 5 grand. So we pretty much took off 35 grand off the purchase price, and then we paid 5 grand to get those plans done.
Fantastic. Is it difficult to get skill down in Arizona? Like obviously you're in Canada, you need to find a skilled team, construction manager as you said, and obviously the people that work with him. Is it quite difficult to find those people?
So the way that I found this person is, my first general contractor is, they built the exact same house that I used as a comparable to purchase this land. So using I typed in the address and I said, "Who built this house?" Because it just completed like 2 months ago, and it spat out the company name. I found his Instagram. I found his phone number. I gave him a call. I said, "Hey, I'm buying a property right down the street. I want you to build the exact same house. Tell me how that went." Right? Got a gauge for his experience and his trustworthiness over the phone. Okay, what's the budget? Can we do a fixed price contract? So on and so forth. And then when things were getting close to removing subjects, I flew down there. I met him in person for a few hours. We literally just sat on the lot and talked about, all the things that had to do with the project. And from there, I basically got a good feel for the kind of general contractor that he is, and we're going to work with him.
Fantastic. I mean, a lot of people look at property as a buy and sell, but obviously a lot of professionals look at about it as capital allocation strategies. What's the long-term plan with regard, Stroit Capital? Is it to build up an investment platform with a lot of these projects going on, multi-projects?
Yeah, the idea is to do, I don't want to do a lot of small projects at the same time. I would rather do 2 to 3 large projects at the same time. Um, by large, I mean, each project over 10 million in cost. But obviously, it takes a while to get there. So I'm starting with these smaller ones. Um, long term, I think it depends on whatever the market wants. If the market decides it needs rentals, I'll do rentals. If the market needs more for sale, I'll do for sale. Similar to all the developers that are pivoting here. Like all the developers here were doing for sale condos and townhomes for the longest time. Nobody built rentals at all. And then the government here gave really good financing options um, to build rental housing. So then all the developers pivoted to build rental housing as like a long-term play. And now we're going to have a lot of rental units. Whatever is kind of hot that year or that decade is what I'm going to focus on.
Where do you see property sitting at, when it's compared to equities or private markets as an investment or an alternative assets? Do you see it comparable on the returns it gives? Better returns? How do you sell it to an investor?
So it's better returns than if someone was to just invest in the stock market themselves, right? Of course, there are some people that get lucky and make, 200% on some random stock, but it could also go to zero. Our philosophy is that, for example, for this next project, if we can purchase land and add value by subdividing that land and get it reappraised, we've already made 30% on the money just by the reappraisal. And then everything else after that, the actual development and sale of the units, is just the gravy on top. So if you're able to cover your basis with the land purchase by getting a good deal or rezoning and getting a land lift, then the development risk is significantly less. So that's kind of our philosophy. I do want to give investors at least a 30% IRR because that's why people get into private real estate. They want much better returns than they could getting out of like a S&P 500 or just a regular fund. And another part of it is people just like to be part of real estate projects where they can see the physical asset being built. They can understand why I'm building XYZ. And then another small portion of it, which is only something that I think is become a new thing over the last few years, is people want to work um, with people that they find on Instagram. Like I know a lot of people that have construction companies or they sell products online, and people that purchase their products want to be part of the personal brand associated with that company. And all that's found through Instagram. So there's also a portion of people that just like the fact that I'm young and I'm getting after it. And because of all the knowledge or all the information that I put online, they trust me already without even meeting me.
That's amazing. With the geopolitical situation and interest rates looking quite volatile, how do you manage risk across your projects, and how are you planning on handling more risk, obviously, as you go in to multiple projects?
And where the interest rates come into play.
Well, obviously, interest rates buy into margin. Obviously, investments look good on paper. They look good after you've done the research. Obviously, but there's always a risk involved, with everything that's going on. How do you manage that risk?
Um, so very good point about everything looks good on paper. I'll give you an example. Our second flip in Vancouver here, interest rates were at a high. That's before they started doing rate cuts. This was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we started construction. And over the course of construction, interest rates were going down. They were getting cut like 0.5% or a half percent every few months. And we were thinking, okay, this is great. Like, this is going to be extra because obviously, since rates are going down, people are going to want to buy more things. Like people are going to want to buy expensive stuff, and because historically, when interest rates went down, housing rallied, and so on. That's not what happened at all. The complete opposite happened. Like nothing moved at all. Things got a lot worse. And you had other things come into play that we could never even anticipate, which is banning foreign buyers, which is probably going to be the actual end user of the unit that we were building. So, there's only so many factors you can control. Um, what I like to do is I look at used inventory in the neighborhood. And if I sell at the used inventory level for something that is a much worser product, and I still make, 10% or even break even, then I'll go ahead with the project, right? Like a lot of people are saying, well, what about the war in Iran, right? I mean, the president will tweet something and shift markets artificially within minutes. Um, I'm not going to spend my life over analyzing everything that he says or does. At the end of the day, people need housing. They need to live somewhere, and I think to a certain extent, people tune that out. Um, Now, of course, if there was some sort of massive correction with interest rates and they shot up for whatever reason, then we would have a problem. But you know, I could also then come back to and say a lot of buyers in certain markets, they don't even need mortgages that are heavily levered. Some people buy 50% cash, and the others mortgage the rest. Some people are over leveraged, so it really depends on the person as well. That's going to be buying the project at the end. I will say though, interest rates make a huge impact with commercial real estate when it comes to cap rates and getting financing. But so far, that's not really our goal. So yeah.
What about oil prices with a view to cost of construction and products and goods that you need to build the houses with? Is that making any impact?
Not that I've seen. I remember when tariffs came into play a year ago, and I flew down to Arizona and I met with a builder. I asked him where he gets his lumber from, and he said Canada, which is ironic because lumber was being tariffed.
Sure.
So so they had a little bit of a price bump on that, but similar, like I find people use that a lot as an excuse sometimes to charge you a lot of money. And just like when COVID, like people in 2024, we're still saying, oh, it's expensive because of COVID. It's like COVID ended 2 years ago. Stop using that as a scapegoat to you just being an expensive contractor. And I think overall, like the market finds its way to get its goods at a cheaper price because that's overall the name of game of capitalism.
Talking about the states and the housing market, obviously you're looking at Arizona at the moment. Do you find that the governments in Arizona specifically is very friendly towards developers, and it makes it easier as a state to actually do business there?
Yeah, Arizona attracted a lot of new corporate giants to expand their offices into Arizona. And they have a giant chip manufacturer that's, I believe, already completed phase one. And they have phase two. They poured in billions of dollars into building a manufacturing plant there from Taiwan. Um, and they're really like open arms with new business. They also cut their state tax, I believe, by 2.5% a couple of years ago, to incentivize more people to move out there. So it's a red state. They're very pro business, and they want to see their state succeed.
Is there any other states we compare?
Yeah, people usually combine like Arizona and Texas in the same sort of um, mold, right? They're both red states. They're kind of in that southern part, but Texas has a lot of issues when it comes to natural disasters. So insurance policies are a lot more expensive there if you want to build and own housing. Um, and I think some people compare Arizona to Nevada as well, just because it's a desert. Um, but any sort of growing state would be compared to. with Arizona.
So tell me about technology within the building business and property business. Do you use a lot of technology? Are you finding AI and the new technology helpful, or
Absolutely.
how is it affecting the market?
Yeah. So for me personally, I use Claude almost every day just to run ideas through it. But last night I was using Claude to make me a pro forma based on a project that I have my eyes on. So I basically got it to make me three different versions of a spreadsheet. I got it to check that spreadsheet, and then I could also put that spreadsheet into a different AI, which I forget the name of, but I have a free trial with, where it can make me a pitch deck based on that pro forma. So I used to spend, about a week making a pitch deck, and I'm not an artist, but the pitch deck had information that would look good enough. But with I can put the spreadsheet into this other AI. I can give it a prompt saying, "This is the project, this is the address, give me all the points of interest. Here's my information about the sold comps, and here's the way that I want to structure the deal. Make me a 12-page pitch deck that I can send out to potential investors." And it will just spit out this beautiful presentation that will have all the information that I need that otherwise would take me a week. I can run through deals a lot quicker, and I'm really excited to use that because you don't go after every single deal that you send out to potential investors. So if that saves me a week from every single project, then I can run through a lot more scenarios than I could have before.
Sure. Looking at the market in the future going forward, where do you see the next big opportunities apart from Arizona and what we've already discussed? Do you think the property market's become more institutionally controlled, or do you think there's more private capital domination moving into the market?
What are the next opportunities? I believe there's I think the next opportunity is AI for sure. If you're in the real estate or development construction industry, to use AI as much as you can. Um, I think that's the next biggest opportunity in terms of like a specific asset class in real estate. I think it would really depend on each city that you're in or looking at. I get opportunities sent to me through Instagram from people that live in different states. And I'm sure they're terrific opportunities, but I don't want to spread myself super thin.
Sure.
Um, so for me, I'm just kind of looking at where the big developers are putting in money. So there's a master plan community that's going to be happening over the next 30 years in in the western part of Arizona. And I just kind of go where the money goes. There's a lot of wealthy people moving there as well. So I'm just following that uh, and seeing
Makes
where that
sense.
takes me. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I mean, what sort of advice would you give for people coming into your space, new founders, new investors or operators? What's the advice you would give them to help them along their way?
Don't make any excuses for why you can't raise money. You can't raise money because you're not trying hard enough. My family didn't come from development at all or construction. These are all people that I had to meet just with my own hard work of posting on Instagram and years of trying to get in contact with people. So don't make any excuses and just keep hammering it. Eventually, it will stick.
Instagram obviously has a lot of people on it, a lot of influencers, a lot of people talking about what they do and how they do it and all the opportunities out there, and they tend to lead people to believe that they can get rich very quick. Any
Yeah.
advice for the people watching in to think that?
Yeah. Don't buy courses. I can't believe there's still people that sell like online courses, like for like, they'll be like, oh, this is how I got rich, selling houses or whatever. At the end of the day, I believe like people will only help themselves if they really want to help themselves. And buying a course to learn how to do something isn't going to make you all of a sudden a millionaire. You have to do the work too. And that's different from consulting because consulting, you're working with business owners that are already, they might be in a crossroads and you're helping them out. So they're ready to get help. But when it comes to the regular person that just buys a course, like all the information's online, um, and you don't need to spend $20,000 on a course.
You think obviously you learn by mistakes, don't you? And and you get successful by learning from those mistakes and keep pushing.
Yeah, and there's definitely mistakes that could be avoided just by um, maybe thinking things through. But I've been burned on a few things, and I will never ever make that same mistake again.
Very good, Vlad. Great podcast for people who want to get in touch with you, invest with you. You know, use you as a mentor, even. Where can they get in touch with you?
Best place is Instagram for sure. That's at Stroit.capital. That's my Instagram handle.
Okay, cool. You on LinkedIn as well, or any other sites?
I used to post on LinkedIn, but I don't really check it very often, actually, believe it or not.
So Instagram's the entity that moves. Okay, that's brilliant. All right, well, I want to thank you for being a guest on
Thank
on
you,
our
Gary.
podcast. It's been really, really good. I mean, it's opened my eyes about the opportunities in the States, especially Arizona and states like that. For all the listeners listening in, I want to say thank you for being on the show. I'll be back with another episode in the next few days. As you know, I'm Gary from A1 Solutions, international.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram, actually, although probably underutilized. That's going to change after today.
Yes, sir.
And I want to thank you again, Vlad, for being on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.